So first of all, let me just real quickly give you, I try to do this as quickly as I can, but give you kind of the history of how this group got started. So we are all not even all music majors. We all did different things in college, but Peter and Kim and I all went to the same college. We went to Ithaca College in upstate New York. I was a classical saxophone major with a strong emphasis in jazz saxophone. Kim was an acting major, and Peter was a piano and voice classical major. But we all shared the same experience of singing in the vocal jazz ensemble at our college, which back then was a little bit more unusual to even have those, especially back east. But Dave Riley had developed this group at Ithaca College, and we had all, to varying degrees, also had listened to groups like Manhattan Transfer and Singers Unlimited and The Hi-Lows and Lambert, Hendricks, and Ross, all that kind of stuff, and just found that sound really interesting. For me, coming from an instrumental side, I also just found it super intriguing to sing the harmonic vocabulary that we usually associate more with instrumental, big band, horns, etc., and piano and all that. So we all just loved being part of that group, and shortly after we graduated back in a long time ago, we had a chance to be part of an alumni group that went over to Europe and performed together. It was a 6-voice group, and Dave Riley was invited to bring a group over to some of those big jazz festivals like North Sea and Nice and things like that. And we were a part of this, we'd all recently graduated. And we had such a great time doing that. Dave Riley, just for fun, he called the name of the group New York Voices. And so that's actually where the name comes from. We had such a great time doing that, and we were all at various points of like trying to migrate to New York and do different things. And Kim was auditioning for all kinds of Broadway shows and this and that. And Peter was playing classical piano and singing in classical choirs and also playing in like clubs as a jazz pianist, and I was doing whatever I could to keep a roof over my head. And but we all loved the idea that maybe we could try to put together a group professionally, and so that was what the inspiration was. So in 1980, so 86 was that summer project. In 1988, we kind of got things started in New York, and with Caprice Fox, who was another Ithaca grad, and Sarah Krieger, who was a vocalist that we met in New York. And so that was the professional version of New York Voices. And we started writing our own charts, writing our own arrangements, some of our own compositions, just trying to get out there, playing little clubs in New York, doing our thing, and getting people excited about what we did, and slowly, well, actually not slowly, quite quickly built a bit of a following, and had some record labels interested, and got signed with GRP Records in 1988.
But that didn't happen just
89.
magically. We worked. We were the skeleton of the body of work that got that excitement going on. We made the phone calls, we did the flyers, we put our promo together, we hand-delivered everything at that time because there was no electronic stuff. Yeah. We did everything ourselves and kind of made it happen.
Now you notice I mentioned 5 people altogether. We were a quintet early on. If you have to go back a ways to find older recordings and older photos where we're young and have hair and stuff.
We still don't know where that 5th person is.
No, you don't know what funny is.
Okay, I guess you can edit.
We have to turn it on. Check.
Check.
Yeah, no.
That's what I thought.
Check.
Okay.
1, 2.
So, this technology, oh my God.
Before we go any further, I think it needs to be said that everyone needs to look at Dartmouth's socks.
Woo!
We can continue now.
Yes. So we were a quintet in those early days, and we were doing our own music. We were kind of a hybrid between straight-ahead jazz, because we certainly loved that, but we also, like so many of you, have your favorite pop music of your generation. We were huge fans of the pop music of our day, you know, the Stevie Wonders and Earth, Wind and Fires and Chicago and Steely Dan and James Taylor, and you fill in all the blanks. And we also loved sort of the crossover jazz experience of the Al Jarreaus and stuff like that. So we did a lot of stuff that kind of went in that more electric side of things. And then, I won't bore you with the details, but we had a couple personnel changes in those early years, and Lauren joined the group in 1992. Lauren and Peter had been starting to do some writing together. They had met as through friends of writing songs together. And when we were auditioning new people, Peter mentioned it to Lauren, and you hadn't even really heard Lauren sing yet, right?
Not really.
Yeah, other than just sitting around the piano a little bit. So she came in and wowed us, and the rest is history. We've been together with Lauren now. Lauren's the new girl. She's only been in the group for 28 years. And then shortly after that, we downsized, had a little corporate downsizing to from quintet to quartet.
We still don't know where that fifth person is.
Yes. And so we decided to go with the quartet format, and that's what we've been ever since 1994, I think, is when we became the quartet. The group has sort of evolved to be a little bit more of an acoustic group than we were in the early days, although you saw we still had electric bass for some tunes where it felt right, but we kind of got away from that sort of, synths and electric guitar fusion-y kind of side.
But that was also because of, again, the industry of like flying, where, you couldn't bring an electric bass and keyboard racks underneath the plane anymore because you'd be charged, exorbitant amounts of money. So it also was out of necessity that we changed with the way that the economy and the world was changing. So we could no longer really have those extra bells and whistles. And we just, in the end, you just sort of also embrace just how organic we can be and how much music we can produce as an organization. And so it just meant, our instrumentalists, have to step up and fill other colors and other ideas, and we had to also step up in different ways. So it invited some sort of creativeness. Out of creative necessity comes, beautiful things, and I think it's okay that it evolved that way. But it is interesting. Yeah, we would show up at the airport and there'd be like keyboards and keyboard racks and two basses and all kinds of stuff, and those are the old days.
We don't even take a bass anymore.
Yeah, we just use what's provided. Bass, we bring a bass, but we don't bring out an acoustic bass. And the repertoire, I think, because of that, also had tended to shift a little bit more towards the acoustic piano and bass color. Although we still, as you can see, we like to do a lot of different styles. The connecting thread for us is this 4-part harmony, where it's, a good amount of the time it's your classic 4-way close, meaning if this is the melody note, then we're just going down the notes in the chord, and they're all as close as they can go to that top note. We're not going la 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 la, right? We're not doing the big open voicings. We're doing that tight voicings, because who's playing the bass? Who's playing the roots? That bass, that acoustic bass, walking down there. It's almost like we're a piano voicing, we're a saxophone section, right? It's that kind of close harmony, which gives you that. Also, that gives you that wonderful tensions and like the seconds between the altos and tenors, all those lovely color notes that make it nice and yummy and zingy, and that's kind of what we do. With obviously the style of the tune dictating where it may wander into other paths at times. We try to bring in at least a little bit of our own original music to the table as well. Sometimes we have endless debates about how much we can or can't do that. We find oftentimes that the jazz community that really loves the vocal side of jazz oftentimes has a predilection to look for the jazz standards, right? All those classic tunes. But we do find, luckily, the landscape is changing, where there is more and more people that are embracing the idea that Esperanza Spalding is going to write her own songs, and Gregory Porter is going to write his own songs, and so there's more room for this to be explored by the vocalist, and so we've been doing that since day one, but we certainly try to be a part of that experience as well. Any brilliant questions, provocative thoughts you'd like to share? And we'll just talk a bit. Go ahead.
I'm curious to know, when you approach your arrangements of either standards or pop songs or anything, what is kind of your first step as far as going into how you arrange those songs for your jazz voices?
First step is, do we all collectively even feel connected to it some way? We all kind of sign off on it for the most part. Sometimes someone comes in and just says, I gotta roll with this, can I roll with it? Or they bring it in. But for the most part, we really do talk about, is everybody feeling this tune, right? And does everybody feel like there's actually a way for the 4 of us to participate in that as a quartet? So is there is there either harmonic interest or rhythmic interest or something that we go, yeah, I can feel it, or, you know, Darwin will say, I kind of got already an idea started. So we try to bounce those ideas off so that it also means that someone doesn't spend an enormous amount of time arranging something that everybody kind of goes, I'm not really feeling it. You know, so we try to, that would be the first step is there, do we see ourselves finding a way to add something to that song that maybe hasn't happened before, and then what is that exactly gonna be?
Sometimes the song sort of arranges itself and it's more about the song. Especially if it's an original song, then you don't have to go as nuts necessarily with what the arrangement is, because the song already is a statement. It's brand new. Sometimes there have been songs that would be kind of like, I could care less if we ever sang that song, but then an arranging idea kind of kicks in and you kind of go, wow, if we do it like this though, this really is new and fun, right? So that's kind of key. Sometimes it's dictated by who it's supposed to feature. You know, if somebody, either one individual said, I'd really like to do this song, okay, let's figure out how to frame this song around you. For example, Reminiscing in Tempo last night, you know, so that was really more about Kim than, say, It's All Right With Me, which is just kind of a group, boom, out there in your, you know, collective. So, you know, each song might have a different shape in that way as to what the purpose is. Some songs have been brought in externally because of project concepts. You know, you're kind of like, we're going to do a, you know, we need you to be part of some event that's going to be a tribute to so-and-so. So here's 4 or 5 tunes to choose. Like, I don't know, let's try that. And then you just write it. But a lot of it's just sort of kind of organically the ideas that we have that just sort of start to take on a life of its own. And I'm not going to lie, there have been songs that any one of us would be like, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then we try to rehearse it for a while and it just, I don't know if this works. And we just set it aside. So it's a little hit or miss sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you never know if a song is going to last for 32 years or not, right? So you have to like it well enough that it's going to, you know, live in your closet for a long time.
One thing, I don't think I need to explain this in too much detail to this room, but I think sometimes people who don't understand what this whole genre is, they don't even really necessarily get that this is all written down in the first place. It kind of feel like we just organically go, hey, ready, go. And we just all sing, you know, because we are quite polished and it seems like it just sort of happens. But we, just like what you're looking at, or just like a small horn section, we write it down. Now with that said, there's an amazing amount of shifting that happens in the rehearsal process where we redefine rhythms and change formats and, you know, figure out stuff on the fly, reorganize, but it all starts on paper. Yes, sir?
Do you ever just like sit around and just shoot ideas at each other for a while?
Yeah.
Shoot at what?
Ideas. Yeah, sometimes it might be for a section of a song. We've had times where we're kind of like, okay, something else needs to happen now. We're not quite sure. We kind of vamp around a while. Peter sits at the piano and we kind of sing some ideas and maybe something grows out of that.
We did that a lot more on our Paul Simon CD. That project was more of a collective work, and it was kind of when we were all in the same place. Now we all live in different parts of the United States, so our work is usually in a hotel room, and usually more formulated ideas are brought to the table. But I like that idea. I would love for us to build a song from the bottom with nothing. That would be really fun. I like it.
Yeah, thanks. We also have a process sometimes where somebody has come with the general framework of, so there's a real collaborative project and process in that. Somebody's come up with a general framework. And Peter and I have numerous times written sections where Peter's kind of gone, I think, you know, here's the chord reharmonization or the chord progression. And this is kind of the shape of probably the lead, and then he and I will sit and kind of Sudoku it. You know, we're like trying to figure out, okay, well, then if you do this, well, what if we did that? And, you know, we're kind of then breaking down and getting into the architecture in a little more detail as a collective. So it's a lot of different ways of happening. Yeah.
How do you choose your strengths, like, to work as a group and, like, resolve conflict?
Okay, those are 2 questions.
Yeah. I mean, conflicts, I think, are easier the longer we're together because everything feels a little less urgent, like, oh my God, this is the most important decision ever. When it was the first album in 1989, right? And now, you know, whatever, it's kind of, you pick and choose which things you really want to hold on to and which ones you're kind of like, okay, I can set that free. What was the first part, strengths?
Yeah, like, what do you strengths?
It's a tricky thing because we we don't want to pigeonhole everybody and like say, okay, you know, I do every scat solo, and Lauren does everything that's got an R&B flavor. You know, we try to like, you know, whatever. We just try to loosen those things up, but at the same time, you want to make sure that things come out as strong as they can. So it's a balancing act. But we have tried to certainly let everybody try to develop more. Oh, better
Could you
on
speak
mic?
for the mic, please?
Oh, does he? Do I have to say all of that over again?
No.
Yeah.
You're good.
You know what I mean? It's a fine line, because you don't want to, yeah. But we try to, and we also try to pick repertoire that really highlights people's strong lyrical sense, or their strong emotional content behind the lyric, or things that let Peter also sit at the piano, and then, you know, you'll notice when Peter's sitting at the piano, more often than not, he was always, he was the beginning of the arrangement concept of that tune, because he oftentimes writes he's written the piano into the arrangement in a way that's more composed, I would say. And
doesn't work without it.
right, and so it's a wonderful flavor that comes across differently than other things.
When Concordia 2 did Come Home, you really brought me back. I remember sitting at my parents' piano writing that. Like, I remember, it all came back. Like, sitting at my parents' piano writing that in an afternoon. And you just brought it all back today, so thank you very much for doing
Isn't that cool that something can live that long?
I know.
And those strengths, they have to come from both the group recognizing someone's strength, but also you individually recognizing your strength and wanting to showcase that. So it has to be met for me from both sides, right? And that resolving these conflicts, maturing is a good thing, right? Getting older is a good thing. And you learn how to navigate, you learn how to communicate, and you do learn how to balance. When something has a longevity like this group, you do learn how to balance on this platform that we have created all together. So it's a process. There's no trick, there's no secret. Just about being, you know, kind and communicating. Because people can't guess.
And also, speaking to that too, since we have been together so long, whatever maybe your perceived strength is, either both from the group or from yourself, and maybe your perceived weaknesses, they also even out too, because our work ethic is so strong that we just get better. So you could actually comfortably move people in and out of other areas at this point, and they would do well, where typically you'd put maybe someone else in that role, but it'd be good for the group to also expand and also see other points of view of music. And so it's interesting to also continue to push yourself to improve on the things that maybe you don't do as well, and as Darwin had mentioned, not pigeonhole yourself. And by virtue of that, everybody does a little bit more. You know, everybody's either, you know, offering in a little bit more as much as possible, and the group continues to expand in a healthy way.
And you do still try to challenge yourself too.
Absolutely.
Along the way, for sure.
Always.
Like I don't know, maybe some of you can connect to the fact that, you know, for the longest time, doing like any kind of vocal improvisation, I would want to just run screaming out the door, you know, run outside, say, God bless, you know, good for you. And now, you know, after 30 years, it's sort of fun. So, you know, but it took me a long time for those voices to go, why are you doing this when, you know, these other people are here? Why do you need, you know? And I was like, no, it's cool, those voices went away.
Right, and those voices for me are like, why would I arrange anything when Darman, you know, and Peter are the expert arrangers? That's a lot of noise for someone who actually is really capable of arranging. And it's just
Each other for 2 weeks or a month or something, and then singing Don't You Worry About a Thing or whatever. It's like, yeah, all right, this is so cool that people want to hear us do these songs, and that's just, you know, so much of it comes from the audience too. I will say, when we've had gigs where it just wasn't, I don't know, whatever, it wasn't promoted well, or it was just a bad fit to even bring us in, whatever, you know, you sit in a hall that has, you know, 800 seats and there's 86 people there, and you're like, wow, this is going to be some heavy lifting tonight. But even then, you bring your professional energy to the table, and after the gig, of those 86 people, maybe 30 of them are out there hanging out and wanting to talk and say how wonderful it was to hear you, and I'm so glad you came here, and blah, blah, blah. So you always need to just keep that energy going. But if the room's got 800 people in it, and they're all enjoying it, that makes it really a lot of fun.
We've also never really had a hit, that tune, like the Transfer had some serious pop hits back in their day. And so that kind of helps us not have to repeat. We can kind of change things up because, we tend to gravitate toward, there are those tunes for us that we think are kind of really important, integral to the evening, but we don't have to do, there's not those 3 songs or 4 songs that everyone's just kind of sitting there going, when are you going to do those? We just kind of do what we do.
And so much of it also goes back to that first decision that you make when you pick a song that you really, really like, right? And that you could possibly do for 30 years. And we also have the energy built in from our band. They are so a part of what we do and are a signature part of our music that we get energy from these people. And they bring a freshness to the music because it's not always the same trio for us. So the combination of our band and the audience and the music that we love, and the fact that we want to be in the moment. We want to be here.
Yeah, we are
So-
performers. Yeah, and I think, sorry Kim, did you want to have one? The other thing is just, it's good writing. So even if you're relegated inner part person, or you're just the bass guy, or you think that maybe the soprano, has the most sunshine, it's actually all really good writing. All the voice leading is really there to chew on. So I don't think any of us feel like when we're singing our parts that there's not enough meat on the bones to just go, yeah, I love my part. I love singing this part, and I love what's happening right here with my colleagues. And so there's just a lot of fun, there's good writing, and so it doesn't feel like labor. It feels, like...
Along those lines, we're also nerds about this kind of harmony. I look forward more. I look forward more to the big ringing last chord of, like the buzz of the way the last chord of some tune, and then the alto note moves there and it makes something happen. It's like, oh, and we're locked. Oh wow, we're really in tune tonight. That's great. Zing. That's fun. That's more interesting to me than me getting to sing, a little solo line in Smack Dab or whatever. It's like all the harmony stuff is just like, wee, that's so much fun. The same way that like when I'm also listening to a group like Take 6 or whatever, I love the fact that whoever can riff and sing those great soulful lines, but it's those chords that go, come unto me, and then the chord is like, oh, that's so awesome, right?
So I remember for the last week that I just performed, I know you mentioned mixed voice, and I just remember I didn't really even know what that was until a couple of years ago. So could you talk a little bit about that and how it fits into jazz?
Yeah, for me, that mixed voice is where you get that horn sound, especially in your upper register, where you don't want to belt, but you can't sing it in your head voice either. So it has to be in this rap mixed place that you can take up that. So, and I can do that all day long.
All day long.
Right? Because it's.
It's weird at airports,
But that's, for us, that's the healthy way to get that instrumental influence there and to truly make it sound authentic. And you want to sound like a player and not like a singer.
I'm trying to think of a little section where both of you guys sing with more mix in a group sound, and where if we were to sing more head voice, so we could maybe something.
Smack Dab, or like a Ain't Nobody Here, or like a...
I'm trying to sing.
I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, to sing what sounds like head voice versus. We're but they call me baby driver,
Yeah,
like
sure.
that. What key is that right there, Peter? Well, we're gonna be flat, so right when.
Oh, they have the chart, right? What's that?
Yeah, right? Is that what it is?
So in jazz, as a female vocalist, you want to use your speech more than your head voice. So you have to find that place where you're going to transition and deal with registration, and that's kind of where you slide into your mix, depending on the tune, right? And how forward you want to go with your sound. I'm alto, right? Yeah.
Is that what it is, Peter? Is it way up there?
Can I have a little more? I need some gain.
Check.
We haven't sung the song in so long.
Call me, babe. Yeah.
Yeah. So, come on, happy day.
Wrote this thing.
Call me, baby driver. I'm so low.
Call me baby driver.
Okay.
Call me baby driver. I think, right? Is it?
Really think about the pickup right before and placing that, placing those voice consonants, and it's there for you, and it actually is a help. It's like instead of having the rungs on the ladder skip 2 rungs, and then you're like, but you really do use each detail that we've talked about, and they help you execute and get to where you need to go, while also creating musical integrity, right? And character in the genre, and it just makes lighter work of what you do, which is what we're always trying to do as well.
Does that answer your mixy question? Yes, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't get that far into it. It really gets into a one-on-one with your teacher who specializes in that to help you fine-tune it, but that's at least conceptually why it's.
You're gonna find it most like right here. If you find these like soft spots right here by your nose, really, and you get into that rant part of that place, right? But not where you're like closing everything off, but everything has to be open. And it's from that's where you get your mix color, right? And you can have all different shades of that mix as well.
The fascinating thing about working with vocalists is that we are, so in comparison to say working with saxophonists or pianos, all of the saxophone is external, the piano is external, yes there's some embouchures and stuff and things like that, but the voice, the instrument is internal, and so it's so fascinating. I think it's so challenging to find when you work with vocalists what things are uniform that we can all agree that these techniques will work, and then some of the things that are actually, what works for Kim might not work for Lauren, and vice versa. What works for you might be unique and different for you. It's a fascinating process.
You can keep, sorry, now I'm just thinking about, you can keep that mix aligned too by doing some octave slides with that. Right, but you're kind of dealing with the very edge of the vocal cord. Does that make sense to you? It gets easier the higher you go. Okay. Yeah.
Just going to shift gears from it just to talk a little bit about improvisation, because that's certainly a part of what we do. We have 5 minutes left. Yeah. Okay. So,
Is there another question then?
So yeah, we'll save that
We don't have
for.
time for it.
Okay.
So, living in all different parts of the country, when you guys find time to practice, you guys, what you mean, it's more like, hey, we're gonna play.
Well,
Bermuda!
yes. We are geographically challenged these days, spread out 4 different states. But first of all, we rely on the fact that we have so much history together in numerous ways. One, we have a ton of repertoire that we can rely on, we can reuse and bring back to life.
But that also can be a challenge when you have to do 4 different shows, right?
Right, yes, we do. Because sometimes you might be doing your Christmas show, and then you're doing a big band show, and then you're doing more some Brazilian show, and then whatever. So yeah, so there's a lot of repertoire going at any given time. But we also can rely on the fact that we may introduce a new tune where we rehearse, maybe, and sometimes it might just be in a hotel room where we might try to get into town a day early or stay a day late somewhere because at least we're together. And we read through a new piece and kind of go, yeah, I think this works, figure out a few things that need to change, and then then everybody's expected to do it on their own and really show up pretty close to, and we also use some of the technology that's there to make MP3s that are rehearsal tracks where everybody can listen to a track and, kind of, have something harmonically to sing along with. But then we're relying on the fact that we already know how we're going to, all these things we're talking about vowels and consonants and where to put the M's and the phrasing and all that stuff, that just happens like, automatically. But early on, we had to break that stuff down in a major way.
Every single bar.
Yeah, but we also lived just a few subway stops apart from each other back then. We truly were New York voices at that time. So, yeah.
It's awesome.
One question back here. How do you approach traditional music as far as vocal jazz and traditional choral music living together?
For us, or just in
In
education
general.
world?
In general.
I mean, God, that's. I mean, give me a chance to sing in a big fat choir for some repertoire, and I'm so happy to go down that road. I was such a choral nerd when I was a kid, so we all have embraced so much of that side of stuff, both in terms of our own experiences, or also just as listening. We are big on the idea from an educational standpoint that people at the high school and college level, until they decide that they've found some niche that's their super specialty, like if you decide you're going to go into opera, then maybe singing in a vocal jazz ensemble might be counterintuitive to the way you're trying to develop your voice, or singing. And if you really want to sing in a jazz setting, then maybe not necessarily singing in the full choir right to the end of the experience is necessary. But earlier on, we think it's important to just get good vocal health, good vocal technique, good support, good breathing, developing a good spin in your vibrato, all those kind of things. And then when you use it in jazz, we may use it differently. We may choose to sing with straight tone or bring the vibrato in at a certain time and all these kind of things, but we still want to have good vocal technique. We want to mix, we want to understand head voice, we want to understand all these things, and then be able to make choices with them. So.
And also, for me, it's also keeping an open mind and open ears, because so many things influence other things. I'm on a path at Ithaca College where I am teaching the vocal jazz majors in their classical voice studios with their teachers. So we're bridging a gap, we're changing people's minds. And when these students are aware of all the things that they could possibly do in their career and with their voice and their music and their writing and their arranging, that's when new ideas are born. So for me, it is that foundation of technique, but it's also, all roads leading to good music.
I think for the longest time, the straight tone, no vibrato thing was like, to a lot of vocal teachers, they were like, how dare you, that's blasphemous. But I think times have changed, and I think everybody has to be very versatile now in any realm of whether it's jazz or musical theater or classical or whatever.
Including teachers.
Yeah, exactly. I think teachers are needing to be kind of up to do a lot of different kinds of things. So thankfully, all that stigma I think has really gone away.
I would just button one last thing to just say also, we want to really support building singer musicians, right? So the more you learn how to read and you learn your harmony and you learn community, you learn solo, you learn, and you play an instrument, we can change also the culture that lives in a lot of our institutions that perceives singers as not really musicians. And the more we arm ourselves with the tools and with the skills, we will change those feelings and build bridges. And I think that comes from your work as a student and empower yourself with skills. Do it now. Yeah. Thank you all so much for spending this hour with us, and we look forward to hearing more music as the afternoon progresses. Enjoy, I think, lunch at this point or something. Yes.
Before we close, I just want to give one plug too for our vocal jazz camp. We have two of them, one in Western Michigan, July 27th through August 2nd, and one in Germany, August 23rd through the 29th. We have scholarships for all of them, and everyone is welcome, from 14 years old to whatever. And the only thing you audition for is a scholarship. So if you'd like to come spend 6 days with this kind of thinking, this philosophy, this energy, come check out the website.